Hello and welcome to the Invisible Cabaret Podcast. Delighted to have you here. Our podcast is all about mental health and creativity. We are devoted to stripping away the stigma surrounding mental health and talking about how creativity can feed into our mental health, and especially in lockdown, how creativity is being affected and mental health too. As always, your hosts are myself, Rosie Verbose, and
Ferrero Rochelle.
Ah, lovely.
Hello.
You know, I've been watching a lot of detective dramas lately, particularly Line of Duty, and I have noticed that when they are recording their interrogations, they always make the speaker identify themselves for the benefit of the tape. So I just felt then like I wanted to say, for the benefit of the tape, we are joined by... and they'd be
like you are interrogating me.
Oh, well, no, we are interrogating our special guest for today.
Yes, we are. So for the benefit of the tape.
For the benefit of the tape. We are delighted to be joined by the sensational burlesque siren that is Ida Sanguine. Hello.
Yay! How you doing?
How you doing? Now we have definitely deviated from the interrogation format. How you doing? How are you doing, my darling?
I am pretty fucking great.
Well, super.
Do you know what? I met up with Ida a few nights ago and we talked about her being on the podcast, and Ida was like, I'm going to curse a lot.
Okay, you've had your warning now, listeners.
Like a sailor.
Like a sailor.
Love that
Quite.
phrase. Lockdown, Ida, how has it been for you? Obviously not performing sucks, right? So how has that been?
It's been a case of many stages. It was I am so excited to just do absolutely nothing, and I was snacky a lot, and I was living my best life. Did that for about 2 weeks. Then I got so excited about how great I was going to be when everything went back to normal. And I got super productive, and I spent about a month rhinestoning everything I own and reviewing everything I have and creating, I think I created about 3 new acts or something like that.
Marvellous.
Wow.
But then the realisation of we are not going back to normal anytime soon, then that sort of lockdown depression hit, and then the whole point of why am I getting up in the morning, there's no point, more snacky snacks, and kind of went into like a massive deep funk and just couldn't really talk to anyone or do anything, which was really hard. But then, then things started to look up again a little bit, and then the next day it was terrible, and then it was okay again, and then went back to Norway for 6 weeks. Felt like a holiday. It was great.
Very nice.
And then I came back and life was starting to become a bit more normal, so I'm not going to complain now. It's okay.
Yeah, but at least venues are starting to open up again. What's it looking like for you, Ida, from a performer perspective?
Still quite quiet. People are starting to go back to work now and booking gigs and stuff. It is a little tough to not be one of those people, because it is really quiet right now. But, it's one of those things where, like, not everyone can go back at the same time.
Absolutely.
So I'm not really that fussed about it. Don't really have anything in the pipeline at the moment. But also I'm still furloughed, so I'm not doing my muggle job either. So it's just like, to be fair, like, it's okay. It's okay that not much is happening as of yet.
I think you're definitely not the only one to feel that way. By the time the podcast comes out, it will be, a couple of weeks ago. But Ros recently put up on the Invisible Cabaret Instagram a quote that Belle de Beauvoir put out. Absolutely hit the nail on the head.
For those who didn't see, it was basically Belle de Beauvoir saying that it's okay, basically, if you haven't gone back to work yet. Try not to be anxious about it, because we're all going to be affected in very different ways at different rates. And it doesn't say anything about you as a performer or a person and what you're capable of. It's just a question of this is a weird time and it's going to happen the way it's going to happen. She said it much better, but that's the general gist. The general gist. Yeah. It's lovely to see that at least in some performer spaces that is there, because I think it can become a competitive place, as we all know, quite quickly. So to hear that from another performer is a really lovely thing, I think. I just want to really find out what it's been like for your mental health, and like, are you feeling the drive to be back at work from like a positive perspective, or are you missing it? Like, what's it like in your brain box?
Oh, it's quite cramped in there. Every day will be a different narrative that my brain will kind of create for me. Like, some days I'll be like, this is what I live for. This is what I've always wanted to do. This is what I want to spend my life doing. Every minute not spending my life doing that is such a waste. And then you've got the whole thing of like, if I'm not performing, who am I? That comes every now and then, but then I'll go like, no, you are not your stage persona. You are a whole human being. Your value is not tied up to what gigs you've done or what people you've worked with or how many bullet points you got on your CV or how many photo shoots you booked in the last year. You know, it doesn't really matter. But Amen. It's one of those things, isn't it? You get stuck in that kind of, it's like pushing, moving forward, and then you're told to stop. And it's nice, isn't it? A bit of self-exploration. Who am I?
Yes, can be more uncomfortable than comfortable sometimes.
Yeah, but who wants to be comfortable, though? There's something about being able to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Oh, hey.
Rather than just thinking like, oh, this is uncomfortable and I don't like being in this space. But if you can learn to be comfortable in the being uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, mate.
It's a nice place to be, because then all of a sudden you're like, oh, especially, you know, for people like me who struggle a lot with anxiety, it's kind of nice to not push yourself, but to kind of keep gently nudging yourself to realise that this is scary, but you're fine. You're still here.
It's another way of phrasing it's okay not to be okay, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, it's okay not to be okay, and we spend our time, you know, preaching that. You know, really not just preaching it but believing in it, you know, really believing in it. So yeah, exactly.
But when you're in the middle of an anxiety wave, that is not an easy thing to embody. So
100%.
That is amazing therapy to practice if you're able. I mean, as well, from a chronic pain perspective, I'm having to do loads of that at the moment to kind of turn down the volume on pain. Very similar to anxiety or anything else. You've got to say, okay, this is here at the moment, but it will pass. I'm sure that is a phrase and a narrative and a way of thinking that benefits loads of people in different ways.
Yeah.
It's just difficult sometimes to play out. So can we talk about glitzy, glamoury things now?
Yes.
Yay!
Love the glitz and the glam.
How about we go back in time to when Ida Sanguine was just a wee whippersnapper?
I never was.
And chat about how Ida Sanguine came to be. How did you get involved in burlesque? How did you start? Where did it all come from? Because obviously we know you're a dancer, so talk us through that journey.
Yeah, no, it's funny because, like, I was so convinced that, you know, I was going to grow up to be some sort of massive star. It, you know, it went from being I was going to be a ballet dancer, and then I was going to be a swing in Wicked. But then I came to this country 6 years ago, and I did 3 years at Lipper, and probably about a month in, I got my first comment, "You'd be really good at burlesque." Now, that's such a great compliment. Looking back at it now, I'm like, yeah, you get me. But oh my God, I was so offended. I was so offended because bear in mind, I come from teeny tiny Norway. I didn't know what that meant. All I knew was you were saying, oh, so all I'm good for is pouting my lips and shaking my tits. And I didn't get it. Like, it really, like, it didn't infuriate me. I just could not appreciate what that meant. A couple of years go by, I start noticing that I had a knack for sensual movement, more than anything else. And would, you know, apply that to places where it just didn't belong. And then that made me go like, oh, I'm not good at anything. I can't do contemporary dance. I can't do this. I can't do that. I'm never going to make it. And then I did a Vogue Ball where I entered in a category called Sex Siren. The whole theme was iconic. So, of course, the pale Norwegian with the red hair had to be Jessica Rabbit. And
absolutely.
I was reborn that night. I was just living my fantasy. I had a tearaway dress, was there in a little corset, just, you know, feeling my oats on the runway. And something just, changed. Over the next year, I'm starting to go like, what is burlesque? And I started looking into it and I'm like, this is phenomenal. Like, what is this world? And I got really obsessed with it and kind of went like, maybe this is something I should try. Like, I was still going to be a swinging wicked, but, you know, how about we look into this?
So I just find that absolutely fascinating, because I think back to when we met you at your audition. Everything about you was just oozing sensuality and sexuality, and it was like you'd been doing this forever, and it was like you were made to do this, and you knew you were made to do this, and you were so confident. So to hear that when you first started out, that's not necessarily how you felt, or that you were almost offended to even be thought of as a burlesquer, it's so interesting.
Yeah, so there's this thing we say in, maybe not so much in Sweden, but it comes from Denmark. There's a town called Jante. So we call it the Law of Jante, which essentially, it boils down to, don't you fucking think you're better than anyone else. Don't ever think you're better than anyone else. Don't stick out. Don't go anywhere thinking that you are great, because, you know, at the end of the day, we don't want you to think that. Like, if everyone just thinks they're shit, that's how it should be. And I'm not going to lie, like, that's always been something that I've hated with a passion. It is very much a country of, you know, you don't really want to stick out. That's not, you know, that's never a good thing, which is the complete opposite of what feels natural to me. Then being confronted with someone telling you that you are indeed different, and, you know, you are indeed something that might not be viewed as a good thing back home, then made me go, like, I became really shameful. And, like, that's why I got the reaction I did. I felt really shameful. Like, oh, you're saying I'd be good at something like that. Obviously, I should be ashamed of myself.
It's something that you're saying is still internalized, that even though you can believe it with all your heart, that you've got to this place now in your journey, there are still those moments where stuff happens to you that just that knocks you, and you're like, that shouldn't have any place still in my brain, but yet here it is. So it's a constant effort, isn't it, to keep that sense of self, and presumably dance is one way that you tap into that, Ida.
Yeah, definitely. I think when I'm, you know, flying off on my own, it always needs to have some sort of feminist aspect to it. So, like, because that's the thing, like, it's so difficult, this whole thing about being a feminist. Well, essentially, some people will say, well, then you have to step away from femininity, but then it's like, oh, God, like, no, that is not what it's about. But then at the same time, it's very easy, because so much of what we view as sexy and has been sexy, you know, for as long as we can remember, and looking back in history, it's always been about the focus of what does the man find sexy in a woman. And that is very difficult to kind of find the line where you're like, because like when you try to be sexy, you can, without even knowing it, be doing something that you literally are subconsciously just doing because you know that that's what a guy will find sexy. So for me, kind of every time figuring out a way to take that power, but it's not about you who's watching. It's not about you. It's not about what you want from me or what I can offer you. It's about what I have, what I love, what I enjoy, and allowing myself to share that And therefore, like, not necessarily, because, like, it's beautiful when people are just, you know, gorgeous outfit, lots of glitter. It's all just very sexy, but it doesn't necessarily go anywhere. That's fine. I mean, I've done plenty of jobs where I've done that. But when it's my own material and I create it for myself, I'm like, there has to be some punchline. There has to be something that I'm trying to get across here.
I was just looking at a post that you put out on Instagram literally a few days ago, Ida. I just wondered if I could read from it, just a little section, because I think that really kind of captures what we're talking about here. It's, you know, it's just all in this neat little package.
A dramatic reading. How exciting.
I've got a dramatic reading for you. My sensuality and sexuality are mine. They're for me. Don't get it confused when I share it with the world. It's not an invitation. It's freedom to express more than anything. To inspire other women, the genderqueer and non-binary to express their own, knowing it's theirs and that it belongs to them. See, it belongs to me. It cannot be taken from me. It is mine. Equally, it is mine to share. And when I do so, that is my choice. It goes on. I'll happily be that badass bitch who refuses to let others' actions and abuse define me, my sexuality and my passion for life, because I'd rather be that over anything less. Power is in the eye of the beholder, and in my eyes it's being shamelessly true to all sides of me, honouring all my qualities.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah, that's just everything, isn't it?
Obviously, you've been on quite a journey to go from where you have described to where you are now. Has it just been a question of evolving naturally, or has there been something you've done or learnt which has flipped the switch for you? Was there a moment where you were like, no, wait, this is mine? Like, was it therapy or dancing it out or reading anything in particular? Do you know what I mean?
I mean, I was raised by the best parents in the whole world. Like, you cannot find more supportive parents than mine. And they have always, like, might not have agreed with me, but they've always given me space and room to be who I am. And, like, even starting out doing what I'm doing now, didn't get it, but, like, you'll not find bigger cheerleaders than the two of them these days. Like, they, you know, they're all here for the tits. They're all here for the feminist movement. You know what I mean? Like, they're so on board. And I think because I've always had that safe space, it's just allowed me to kind of just generally have a bit more ownership and feeling very comfortable in myself. Yeah. So, like, despite, you know, changing a lot and working on a lot, I think there's just something that's grown inside from a very young age.
Ida, we could talk for ages, and we'll also share that that post as well. I mean, we always like to share what our troupe members are doing, and you are queen of the old Instagram, so I'll be happy to share that again. I'm guessing that, you know, to pivot in, you are grateful for your safe space with your parents, among other things. But this week, Ida, is there anything in particular that you are grateful for?
I am very grateful that I literally probably about last week decided to just be happy, which sounds so silly, and it sounds
that's huge.
It's no, but it's like, because it, you know, but it sounds like I'm just like, oh, I could just decided all along, because obviously that's not how it works.
Right.
But very much a case of just like, when I say I choose, I allow myself more than choosing. I allow myself to just be happy. Because most of the time I think that I'm being miserable because it's comfortable to be in that miserable place, and to allow yourself to be just content and pleased and allow yourself to celebrate little things when you've been so long just kind of reveling in kind of what's more safe, which sometimes when you do go through a long patch of just being down, just going like, you know what, you deserve to be happy. And then boom, just been a energy ball of happiness for the past week.
That's beautiful.
Lovely to hear.
Yeah. And even if that is something that comes and goes, you know you can get it back, right? Once you've had it once you've kind of had that revelation.
Oh, yeah. It's like orgasms.
Love that. Love that. Rosie Verbose, what are you grateful for?
I am grateful for, I have recently thrown myself into some like learning about the mind-body connection, all as part of trying to come to a new understanding with my body and chronic pain. So I've come across a lady called Nicole Sachs, who is pioneering this thing called journal speak, and it's a very simple idea that you basically do a sort of brain purge for 20 minutes a day, and then you do a little meditation to calm yourself down. And the idea is that you're getting out all the like stuff that even you wouldn't want anyone to read or know that you thought, like the really gross stuff that you hate that you think, because otherwise the idea is that you're repressing it, and then your body's like screaming at you to say, please, can we address this? And you're like, no, we can't possibly. And I know that being a good girl all my life, I have very much done a lot of that repression. So I'm really enjoying scribbling out my 20 minutes a day, and I'm starting to feel lighter because of it. So as simple as it is, I am grateful for journaling, and I'm grateful for Nicole Sachs. And if anyone wants to hear more about it, DM me, because I am feeling quite evangelical about it. So hit me up.
That sounds phenomenal. That sounds like that's going to be really great for you, Roz. I'm really excited for you.
Yeah, mate. Thanks. What about you?
Mine's really tiny this week. I went off on a bit of a rant last week. Not a rant. It was a good rant.
It was a good rant.
This week, I'm grateful for. There's a coffee shop at the end of my street. I think it might be a chain. It's called Coffex, and the woman in the local shop to me, she now recognises me and always gets me my favourite order, like without really asking.
Champ, what a champ.
I know, such a champ. And it's a chai latte, and I know that it's not really coffee, and it's just tea with frothy milk, and it's, been bastardized by, it's been anglicised and whatever, and I know it's terrible, but it's been giving me some joy because it's really tasty.
Absolutely.
It's just really tasty, and I just...
and for being known. For being known and recognised in your community. How lovely.
She's not massively friendly, but I walk in and she just looks up and goes, oat chai? And I'm like, yes, an oat chai latte. Yes, thank you. And she just goes off and makes it. So it's great.
Hey, lockdown, we appreciate connections like never before, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. We have a couple of submissions this week from our lovely listeners. I don't know if you had any on yours, Ferrero, did you?
I did, yes.
Yeah, well, please share.
I'll go first. It's just one. It's from a dear friend of mine, Natalie. She is grateful this week for her support network. And then she wrote, I'm so lucky to have such amazing friends and family. Yes, that includes you, Ferrero Rochelle.
Oh, how
Isn't that
lovely. So sweet. We've also had one from Rachel. Rachel this week is grateful for children. She says they never fail to remind me of the joy in life. We've also had another one saying I'm grateful for, I can't find a name on it, but it's from Gratitude Gifted, and they say I'm grateful for my family, good breakfast food and sunshine. So wholesome. Also very very Ron Swanson.
Very Ron Swanson. Nothing is better than breakfast food, according to Ron Swanson. Oh, I'm very grateful for Parks and Rec. Are you grateful for Parks and Rec during lockdown?
Always.
Oh, it's just been fantastic. I've absolutely loved it.
I'm on the last series, and I'm rationing myself to one episode a week because I don't want it to end.
I identify very strongly with Leslie Knope. Ida Sanguine, it has been wonderful to have you. As Rosie Verbose said, I'm sure there's much, much more we could talk about you, maybe in another episode, if you'd be so kind as to join us a second time in the future.
You will not get rid of me.
Lovely. Nor do we want to.
Do you have anything you'd like to plug or promote moving forward? What have you got going on?
So I'm just going to take this little moment to plug you guys.
Oh,
for those who do not, do not speak English as their first language. I'm trying to, be a bit more inclusive here. So to my dear, I suppose all Scandinavians can understand me. Hei, alle sammen. Den gruppa her, Invisible Cabaret, bare helt fantastisk. Dere trenger så utrolig å bare følge med på alt. Hør på podcastene, følg oss på Instagram, og de 2 damene her bare de mest fantastiske kvinnene jeg noen gang har møtt. Så jeg lover, hvis du fortsetter å følge med, så kommer du virkelig til å være rikere i livet.
I love it! I don't know what you said, but I love it.
Thank you so much, Ida. That's so kind. Could you tell us what you did say?
No.
We'll never know.
Great. Well, thank you again. Yes, thank you, Ida, for joining us. Thank you to wonderful Rosie Verbose. Do you want to say goodbye?
A pleasure as always, and we'll be on the social medias, so come and join us there in the meantime. And we've also got some blogs now coming up on the website too, so go check those out.
We do indeed. And if any listeners would like to share anything that they have been working on, any creatives out there who would like to be featured on the podcast, please do get in touch at invisiblecabaret@gmail.com. We would absolutely love to hear from you. Please do get in touch with things you are grateful for throughout the week. Thank you for joining us. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. See you soon.
Cheerio.
Bye. Cheerio.